What's going on, everybody? Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome back to the Dom and Pop DC Sports Talk Plus podcast. You already know what it is. Celebration pod. Dan Snyder selling the Commanders. Let's get right to it. What's going on, man?
Tensions were high in the pre-production meeting.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I think we're on edge. We're on the edge of our seats because of this team sale.
Yeah, it is. Wow. I mean, the pod you've all been waiting for is pretty much here. I think. I mean, we're going to talk the ownership news. Of course, a lot of people have been hitting us up, asking us. We appreciate you guys for checking in. Here we are talking about it. As of this moment, it is Sunday, about 1:50 Pacific time, so about 5 o'clock over there on the East Coast. Nothing's official yet. Like, it's not finalized 1,000%, but basically, Dan Snyder has reached a preliminary deal to sell the Commanders for $6.05 billion to the Josh Harris, Mitchell Rales group, with, of course, Magic Johnson being the big celebrity in there. It is a non-exclusive preliminary agreement. So they've agreed to the terms. They are accepting other bids at the moment. There is one other that we'll talk about. But all things considered, from what everybody's been saying, it sounds like this is it. It sounds like this is it. So
Are we popping? I gotta ask you: are we popping champagne yet? Are we full on in, or I don't know.
I'm excited right now. I'm thrilled, like everybody else is. This is a great day to be a DC sports fan. I want to save the emotional, super excited pod for when the final nail is in the coffin.
I agree.
And it's over and he's gone. I want to save that for then, and we'll just dedicate a whole 30 minutes to it, and it'll just be glorious. But for now, we got other stuff to talk about. It's all Snyder on the Commander side. This one, we're gonna talk all ownership, but I do want to save that because I don't want to get all emotional and then it gets ripped out from under me. Dan has done that enough to me. He's not getting another one. So how you feeling, Pop? I mean, give me your reactions where you're at.
It's I mean, I think it's great every day that we inch closer to that finish line, and it seemed like everybody wanted to pop the champagne. We had all the radio shows at the brewery selling the Dan beer and doing the full-on celebration. But then just a few short hours later, we get a little announcement that, puts a little, kink in the works, which I know you're going to get into. So I'll save that for you. But, I am very high on the Josh Harris group and what I'm hearing about Josh Harris. It just seems like the perfect situation with Mitchell Rales, who's local, Josh Harris, who's local, and then you got Magic Johnson, who's pretty much had nothing but success and been in his business ventures, and I think would be a great, face of the organization. But I guess it's just not over until it's over. So you even reached out and you said emergency pod, and I was kind of like, I'm just not quite there yet. I would love to see the official announcement come out from the team and the league, and I don't know how much longer that might take for that all to happen. But I think it's pretty definitive at this point. If there was any remnant of doubt left, which I haven't had any for quite some time, that Dan is gone, and that in and of itself is reason to celebrate.
Yes, 100%. 100%. It's just a great day. It's a great day as a Commanders fan. This is once all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed and all that, this is going to go down as the most important moment in my life as a Commanders fan. This is the end of what is the worst experience being a fan of a professional sports team you could possibly have. And so, shout out to Dan Snyder for just being an awful owner, an awful person, finally selling this team and just being done with it.
Well, it's for
I'm
me.
so ready for this to be over.
For me, what we all need more than anything, and it's like when you look at the other options, like Bezos. I know I like to call him Bezos. Bezos. Uh, I think what I like about the Harris Group and why I prefer the Harris Group over Bezos is it's a return to normalcy. I feel like with Bezos, there would just be this other element of, he's just bringing a whole new approach to ownership, and it's a bit of a wild card to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, this is a guy in Josh Harris that's owned, two very successful pro sports franchises. He's got local ties and he's got a great reputation for rebuilding teams. I mean, it's two teams he owns are New Jersey Devils and Philly are successful. They both required full rebuilds, but he also has a hands-off approach, right? So I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to hold you responsible. I'm going to put the right people in place, but I'm going to get hands off after that. So, but we'll see. It ain't over till it's over. And there's a
Yeah.
little bit of, other news here that we might need to get into real quick.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off of what you're saying on Josh Harris, you look at what he did in Philly, it's been outlined. But I mean, he took that program from bottom of the barrel, worst in the NBA, laughingstock. Like in certain parts of the country, you're like, Philadelphia has a team, like just terrible. After the AI era, it was just a pit. And consistent perennial championship contenders every year they've been. And he's built the team the right way, built it from the ground up. He's got Doc Rivers in place now. He's got James Harden. I mean, he's getting blue chip guys coming to his organization. That is impossible under a guy like Dan Snyder. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So that is just a testament. And Magic Johnson has the Midas touch. I mean, everything he's touched kind of seems to turn to gold on the business end. And it's just exactly what we need. So exactly what we don't need is another young, rich, hotshot guy coming in, making a Godfather offer, and that is Brian Davis right now. I hate this. I hate everything about it. I don't want him to buy the team. I don't know. I genuinely look at it objectively, and I'm like, how big of a step up from Dan is this? If this happens, this is a real wild card. I don't like it. It makes me. I don't like it.
Well, why don't you break it down? Why don't you break it down real quick in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, so the reporting on it is a little questionable. In that I haven't seen it confirmed by any of the top tier guys that I always look to for this kind of confirmation. Talking to JPs, the John Kimes, some of the guys from the Junkies. Shout out all those guys. They always give us the information we need in times like this. So when you have Rappaport on ESPN talking about it's going to be Josh Harris, and then you have WUSA 9 reporting that Brian Davis has made an absolutely ludicrous $7 billion bid for the team, in which he offered $1 billion cash, that's with a B, in 24 hours, and the other 6 by the end of the week. It's just like, it's that weird, like, it's almost like you go in NFL franchise mode and you disable the salary cap and then you just buy the whole league on Madden. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's scary. I really hope it just doesn't happen. I just don't need that right now.
Well, and like you said, I mean, it's only been reported by, is it Darren Haynes of USA 9? I think I got that right. Until you hear it, we've said this before, until you hear John Keim say it or JP Finley say it or Adam Schefter say it, none of those sources have reported on this or even like commented on it, right? That, hey, there's a report out there that's saying this is a bid. What it smells like to me, and I could be proven to be totally wrong, because Darren Haynes is, I mean, he's sports anchor of the CBS affiliate in DC, so he's a credible source. But it feels like Brian Davis is putting this out there, right? He's the source. He's the guy that's kind of saying this. And maybe it's just to be able to build his brand up, get
A little
some
bit of name
publicity out
recognition.
there, but it just doesn't feel like it's credible. Now, whether
Yeah.
it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, I don't really know. But it the thing is, it's like we all just want this to be done.
Yeah.
And when it seems like it's 99% there, there's just this other little, you know, chink in the works that occurs, right? That, and yeah, there's some sketchiness in terms of some history with Brian Davis. So I guess we're just going to have to wait to see how real this is over the next couple of days. I'm really interested to hear like what JP has to say about it, maybe what the Junkies have to say about it in the morning. But I'm with you. I'm kind of all in on the Josh Harris group at this point.
Yeah.
So
And
I
another
don't I
important
don't really give this too much credibility, to be honest.
Yeah, another important thing I think to note, which has already been reported on by JP, but Josh Harris is, of course, minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the two most powerful organizations in the NFL. The NFL is just kind of run by that family. And at the end of the day, the owners do have to vote to approve the new owner. And you got to assume, if it comes down to it, the owners are going to prefer the guy that's already a part of the club, has a bulletproof reputation, and especially in a situation as volatile as DC has been, owners have been outspoken saying, we can't keep having this in the nation's capital. It's too big of a market. It's too important of a franchise. This has to stop. Hopefully, if it came to it, the owners make the right call and go with Josh Harris. Anyways, but yeah, Brian Davis is a little bit of a question mark. We hopefully this is that last Dan Snyder hurrah of you're screwing with us, but then it's over and it just goes to Josh Harris and everybody can just breathe
Yeah.
a big sigh of relief and we get moving on. So, speaking of moving on, we're going to have some fun with this because we're not lawyers. We're both about $6.99999 billion short of this whole situation to be given our opinion on, really. So we're gonna have some fun. Instead of a Che Cazz of the week this week, well, not instead. We're doing a beefed up Che Cazz of the week this week. We're gonna give our top 5 Che Cazz moments of Dan Snyder's ownership. Because, to be honest with you, the Che Cazz of my lifetime will more than likely be the fact that Dan Snyder owned my favorite football team. That will be the Che Cazz of my life. Will
And
be
you
that.
said, you said this is the most important moment for the team in your lifetime. I think it's the most important moment in my lifetime too. Because yeah, winning Super Bowls or winning three
That's a
Super
guy
Bowls
that watched 3
while
Super
I was
Bowls
a
won.
fan was great. But the torture of these last 20 plus years and the disappointment of that has taken so much away from that feeling we had as a kid watching those great championships. And I think that being able to sort of recapture some feeling of normalcy and getting back to just focusing on what's on the field, I think it's huge. And yeah,
Yep.
we're going to have a little fun talking about this. Please, in the comments, we probably miss. There's so much to choose from here. Give us what you think should be in the top 5 here.
This is the roast of Dan Snyder today. We're getting it all out. Everything that
That's
we
it.
say every week, we don't want to talk about it. We want to talk about on the field. This is it. We're getting it all out. So before we get into the fun stuff, it's going to be a lot of joking and hemming and hawing about battle on the field decisions. We do want to touch base. We don't want to be insensitive. Obviously, the number one thing, the most deplorable thing is all the off the field allegations of the workplace misconduct and the way he's handled himself in his business, the way he's treated his employees and women around the workplace. And that is by far and away the most damning thing. We're not going to include that in our top 5 because we're just trying to keep it a little bit more lighthearted. But we did want to say before we get into that, like we just wanted to acknowledge it and say that that is by far and away, on a serious note, he's just an evil human being, and that's just terrible stuff. So just cross that off the list. So let's get into it. Che Cazz, number 5. We're gonna go 5 to 1, I think, right? 5-1
The
feels
top
good.
5 Che Cazz moments of the Dan Snyder era.
Yes.
Top 5 Che
And
Cazz
these,
moments of the Dan Snyder era.
so number 5 has got to be the rebrand. Head and shoulders, everything about this rebrand. I will never, and put that in all caps, change the name. Having no backup plan, understanding the way the climate and things are changing. FedEx pulls out. The team doesn't have a name for 2 years because you're such a jackass and you think you're above your sponsors. Then you pick the name. You throw poor Jason Wright out there. I make him walk the plank. Sweet, innocent Jason Wright, this poor guy. You throw him out there and you make him feed the fans a load of BS about how you're going to go with their favorite name. And you pick the one name that everybody hates. The only thing you didn't F up was you didn't change the colors. And that, to me, is got to be in our top 5. So that's number 5 at our Che Cazz. You know, we've grown to adore the Commander's name. It's grown on us. But I also don't think if Josh Harris shows up tomorrow and changes it, anybody's going to be crying. Just the whole handling of the rebrand situation was horrible.
I kind of maintain, like, Commanders, it's okay. It's fine. But it's definitely wasn't anybody's choice, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing where their helicopters flying over FedEx and they could see the name, and it was the worst kept secret, I think, as even Dan himself so eloquently said. But it was almost like they picked the safest, least expensive, definitely no copyright issues versus what would have been, and there would have been no name that would have made everybody happy for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally agree. That's a Che Cazz moment without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you just had so many opportunities there. You could have even gotten ahead of it. And before somebody forced you to change the name, you could have seen, hey, with the way the climate's going to go, we're going to make a modification to the name to maybe make it more respectful or something along those lines. And then maybe we're able to retain more of the history than we lost. But just the whole handling of the whole thing, he just nuked it. And that's a pattern you're going to see as we go down this list. All 5 of these Che Cazzes are Dan just absolutely nuking situations. So, Pop, you want to take over number 4? Hit that one.
Number 4 for me is the hiring of Jim Zorn. I mean, how ridiculous was the hiring of Jim Zorn? We come out
Is he even in the NFL anymore?
No, I don't think that was his last job, I'm pretty sure. Or he might have got a quarterback. Yeah, he was a quarterback's coach.
Go quarterback coach in Baltimore after that.
That's right. But I mean, nothing against Jim Zorn. And he started out hot, right? Started out 6-2, we thought. But Vinny Serrato convincing Dan Snyder to hire Jim Zorn after we come out of the Joe Gibbs era, right? And the thing is, to be in the Joe Gibbs era, which was the most successful era of the Dan Snyder period, right? Joe Gibbs 2.0, and not have a backup plan. Knowing we all kind of knew Joe was in it for 4, maybe 5 years. He was to not know, to not have a coach in waiting or an assistant or somebody ready to take over. Greg Williams was never going to get the job. You hired Jim Zorn as your offensive coordinator. I was hearing somebody on the radio was talking about Seattle didn't even want him as their quarterback's coach anymore, right? And then you hired offensive coordinator before you have a head coach. And then the story goes, good old Vinny Serrato. What about Jim Zorn? Why don't we give Jim Zorn a try? I mean, and obviously the rest is history. In year 2, we hire, a guy off the street to call plays, a bingo caller, and it just crashed and burned. And I'm amazed we were able to recover from that. And, I know you look at Jay Gruden and Ron Rivera. I mean, those are pretty respectable hires when you think about the depths of a Jim Zorn hire as a coach. Got to stay medium, Dominic.
Hey, you remember the swinging gate?
Oh my God, I do now.
The guy called.
He called it twice. Didn't work the first time.
Twice in a row. He called it twice in a row. The first time he called it, and we got a delay of game penalty because the guys couldn't get
Oh
set up. And he
God.
said, "F it, go out there again."
Can we just stop the list now? I don't know if I can take it anymore. That's only number 4, people. That's only number 4. There
I
are
mean, that is
3
just like,
higher ranked Che Cazz moments here coming.
even if that story plays out, it's like the worst Lifetime movie of all time that you ever watched. Like the reject quarterbacks coach turns into a head coach and wins a few games and blah blah blah. But it went exactly how it should have went. I mean, just absolutely terrible there. Um,
The
yeah,
players started
horrible.
revolting, Clinton Portis, everybody
Yeah,
else. I mean, it was
and you
awful.
think about the talent that was wasted in that time. Um,
The talent,
it's
yeah.
awful.
Oh,
But
terrible.
so number 3, moving a little bit off the field here, has got to be FedEx Field team facilities. Obviously, we saw the writing that came out earlier this year. I'm blanking on the outlet that published it, but the rankings of how teams take care of their players and
That came from the NFLPA.
yeah, the player experience, I think, is kind of the general bubble, but how the players get taken care of, how their families get taken care of, what the facilities are like. Straight F's across the board in DC, except for shout out our strength and conditioning coach who did get an A. Aside from that, bomb. FedEx Field, we had sewage water spilling on fans last season. He tried to kill Jalen Hurts, which, I mean, maybe it was a tactical thing. I don't really know. But the
And a
stands
few Philly
collapsed.
fans.
Yeah, and a few Philly fans. The stands collapsed, and I mean, Jalen Hurts was literally like feet away. Like he just got lucky that
How
didn't
about the
happen.
years and years and years of having to figure out the field? How many injuries or torn ACLs have happened on that field?
Horrible. So all the handling of that, and just the rundown facilities, like just how terribly the kind of stuff the players have to deal with. You talk about like rats in the locker room. Sometimes they don't have hot water after games. Just like, I mean, this is a $6.05 billion organization, and your players can't take a hot shower. Like, are you kidding me? You've got like LSU is smoking you guys. Like, what the hell is going on? High schools apparently. So it's ridiculous. So
Ripping
that's
the
got to be
seats
ripped.
out. I mean, if you look at the stadium now, it looks like it's in the middle of a refurbishment that's never going to go away, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's crazy, and not the greatest food choices, and it's
food's
really hard,
terrible.
and I mean, Dan wasn't responsible from FedEx from the beginning, but there would have been there was more than enough opportunity to create a better game day experience there and do the proper upgrades. I mean, he just got done telling the gaming commission, oh, you're going to just love all the upgrades that we're going to see here. We finally got a quarterback. How about
I
that
was
one?
just about to say that.
Finally
I'm
got a
glad you said
quarterback.
that. We finally got our franchise quarterback in 2022, Carson Wentz.
Bye, Dan. Bye,
Just
Dan.
can't take it with this guy. They say don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. I hope the door hits him in the ass. Please.
Maybe he'll just get kicked off his yacht like that scene in the Step Brothers. But
Oh,
anyway, number two. This is a little before Dominic's
yeah,
time.
this one is all pop.
I think it's the hiring and then firing, more the firing of Marty Schottenheimer, right? Marty Schottenheimer started really rough. I think it was like 0-5 or 1-5 or whatever. Had like horrible, we didn't have a quarterback. Rallies the team. We go 8-8. Players loved him. Everything was going well. That was his first attempt at a coach centric, right? Marty was a no nonsense guy. Kicked Dan out. It's like, it's my team. I'm running it my way. This is how we're going to go. Very successful coach prior to coming to Washington. Coached in Cleveland, coached in KC. Always had winners. We were well on a path, I'm convinced, to be a winning team if he had just let Marty stay the course. Fires him. Fires him because he wants to be involved. Doesn't like the idea anymore that he's not involved in drafting players and watching film. I mean, that's the other Jim Zorn story. He used to watch film and go over the game plan with Jim Zorn every Friday before games. Crazy. But fires Marty Schottenheimer, only to bring Vinny Serrato back for a second stint, as if his first stint wasn't good enough. Let's bring Vinny back, right? So he can hire Jim Zorn later on. I mean, absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I mean, Vinny Serrato was. You didn't think it could get any worse, and then we got Bruce Allen, and it's just like,
We
wow,
ain't Bruce didn't even make the top 5.
yeah, that's
That's
how bad this
incredible.
was. That's how bad the guy that they were calling Brucifer on the radio didn't even make it in our top 5. So
Well, he's kind of in the next one. He's kind of in the next one. He's
yeah,
inserted in the next.
it's all fully. He's fully at the helm of the next one. So number one, I mean, you guys have probably been sitting here yelling at your TVs, going, RG3, RG3. When are they going to talk about RG3? Well, we saved them for number one. Number one is the RG3 Shanahan. I'll tie that into Kirk Cousins as well. Era. I mean, you just don't even know where to start. Let's start at the top, right? You trade away all your assets for this kid in RG3, absolute lightning bolt talent, just something the NFL had never seen before when he comes to the league, right? People are talking about comparing him to Michael Vick, and he's better than Vick, and he's going to be this, he's going to be that, X, Y, Z. You got to remember, this is before Lamar Jackson. This is before Jalen Hurts. This is before Kyler Murray. This is before these guys that are able to move the way they are now. This was not a thing back then. This was new. Vic was the only one that you'd seen do it. And RG3 comes in, lifts this franchise like the way you pick up a puppy by the back of their neck, just lifts this franchise out of the dirt with just his raw talent. Brings us to the playoffs, tears his ACL, horribly mishandled situation there. The blame circulates between RG3, the Shanahans, and ownership. All of them played a hand in it. But then you've got this kid in his second year in the NFL telling what I think is the greatest offensive mind in the NFL right now, second to only Andy Reid, in Kyle Shanahan. I'm not running that anymore. Figure it out. And ownership back in the quarterback.
Well, and I also I think just, I would have a slightly different take than yours. I think what Mike Shanahan and probably mostly Kyle Shanahan did in totally redesigning the offense, right? For, a player that had an elite skill set, but was limited as a drop back passer, right?
Yeah.
And putting this offense in place, maximizing his skill set. The fact that neither RG3, but I don't blame RG3 as much, right? The adults in the room, Doc Walker used to always say, have to take over. And the owner has to realize the reason for their success is the brilliant coaching that occurred. Let the coaches run this team and figure this out and tell the player, this is the kind of offense that's going to make you successful. And in fact, probably protect you from further injury, because you dropping back in the pocket, being a sitting duck because you're not comfortable with it, is what's going to get you hurt.
And
it wasn't the style of offense that got Robert hurt. It was his, not taking the right precautions and facing off Haloti Ngata, right? Nobody told him to do that. He couldn't slide.
He was running like he was built like Cam Newton, and he's closer to being built like Kyler Murray.
Right. But back in RG3, instead of backing the adults in the building and giving our RG3 preferential treatment over all the other players on the roster, didn't do RG3 any favors in hindsight, and just how far that set this team back.
I mean, and that just starts the chain reaction of then Kyle Shanahan leaves. Kyle Shanahan turns into one of the best coaches in the NFL. I know we like to give him a hard time around here sometimes, but at the end of the day,
he's a great coach.
He's as good as it gets, right? McVay, same situation. McVay was working with RG3 as well as LaFleur. It was Shanahan, and then his two right-hand men were McVay and LaFleur in that time. They both go off to have great success and be probably in that top 5. If you want to talk young guys, that's 1, 2, and 3, right? And then on top of that, you run these guys out of the building, and what do you still have left? You got a top 8 quarterback in the NFL in Kirk Cousins in his prime. If you look at the numbers, Kirk was at his best in those contract years in DC, 5,000-yard seasons. Maybe not counting last year in Minnesota, he was very good. But prior to that, he was really good in DC if you look at the numbers. And we had our hard times with him and whatever. And you've got your general manager running around calling this guy Kirk. Can't even call him by the right name. And Kirk still has the class to say, you know what, I just wanted to test the market. It had nothing to do with what they were doing in DC. BS. And he had every right to. The general manager can't even say your name right. Of course we ran him out of town. So you run Kirk Cousins out of town. Then you got Jay Gruden there with Sean McVay. You run McVay out of town. Then you got Kevin O'Connell making Josh Johnson look like an NFL quarterback. You run him out of town. And what are we left with? Taylor Heinicke and Scott Turner. At the end of all of it, that's what we got. Taylor Heinicke and Scott Turner. Unbelievable. You got a guy that was looking like a Hall of Fame potential talent, and then you got a guy in Kirk Cousins that is a perennial, probably Pro Bowl level talent in the NFL and is going to keep I tell you what, we are about a Kirk Cousins and a Trent Williams. Trent Williams should have made this top 5. I can't believe we forgot about that. We are a Kirk Cousins and a Trent Williams away from being a Super Bowl caliber.
Well, in a way, it's
and Dan directly ran those guys out of town.
What we're really defining is the Bruce Allen era, and this number one.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Right.
And you gotta include that Trent Williams situation. I mean, guys, read up on it if you haven't. It's nuts. And the way what we were hearing from the media and what Dan was allowing to the public, he was painting this guy as a villain while he's going through essentially the hardest and scariest thing anyone in this life can really go through. Yeah, it's just incredible. But we gotta get moving on here. We can talk all day. We'll have more things to laugh at Dan about in the coming.
I hope we never have to talk about him again, honestly.
Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Without a doubt.
I hope he falls off his yacht. Just a terrible human being. Let's get on our NBA playoffs. Let's move on here. Let's go. Let's check in on our boy Josh Harris's other business ventures here. Where are the 76ers headed in the playoffs? Let's see what's up.
Absolutely.
We're going to hit our brackets really quick.
Second annual NBA playoff brackets. So
yeah.
Remind me, because my memory is a little bit. Who won last year?
You won last year. You picked the Golden State Warriors. It was a great pick. As you were doing it, I'm going, damn, I should have done that. I think I took the Phoenix Suns. They let me down.
Picked the NBA champs, and I picked the Super Bowl champs. So
it was a good year for Pop last year.
On a little bit of a roll year. Want to put your money down on Pop's picks? No one's going to blame you.
He's on a heater. So we're moving on here. We're hitting the brackets, and I did the classic this year. I said I was going to get real into NBA basketball. Watched a couple highlights on Twitter. I have not watched a single game this season, so we're firing.
The Wiz didn't inspire you?
The Wiz, I watched a few Wizards games, actually. That's fair. But no, the Wiz did not inspire me. It's a travesty what's going on there. Oh, my goodness. Terrible. But let's get into these brackets. Let's hit this real quick.
So let's set the table, right? So we're going to do a classic bracket, Don Pop style. If you get first-round games right, it's worth 1 point. Second-round games worth 2 points. If you get the championship, you pick championship teams right, it's worth 3 points. And if you pick the final team right, that's worth 5 points. You always complain about my point system. Are we in agreement?
It's the point system. Let's rock with it. Let's keep it moving. Keep it moving. All right. So, first round, I got Milwaukee coming out of that Milwaukee-Miami series. I got the Knicks coming out of the Cleveland Knicks series. Got to roll with the Knicks. This is purely just from the heart. I think it's just better for the world when the Knicks are good at basketball. And this is another franchise burdened by terrible ownership that's just been their history's been ruined. So I got to roll with the boys here. I think we're trending up. We're trending up as a unit here. The bad ownership club. So number 3, the good ownership club. We're taking the Philadelphia 76ers over the Brooklyn. Shout out Josh Harris. We got Boston Celtics against Atlanta Falcons. I'm taking the Celtics. And then I got Denver.
Atlanta Falcons?
Excuse me.
Are you Pop?
Atlanta Hawks.
There you go.
Birds.
Pop moment.
You're going like this over here. I'm going to get my mascots mixed up. I'm sorry. So we got, I got the Celtics in that game. And then I got Denver over Minnesota. I got Phoenix over the Clippers. I got Golden State over Sacramento, and then I got Memphis over the Lakers. Go ahead, Pop.
All my picks are exactly like yours except for one. So I got the Bucks. I got Cleveland instead of the Knicks. I got Philly over Brooklyn. I got Boston over the Hawks. I got Denver over Minnesota, the Timberwolves. I got Phoenix over the Clippers. I got Golden State over Sacramento. And I got Memphis over the Lakers. Bye-bye, LeBron.
Easy money. Hey, LeBron made it happen though. Got him into the playoffs. So
all our picks are the same except you got New York, I got Cleveland. So
then round 2, I got the Bucks over the Knicks. Mi dispiace our boy Josh Harris. I got the Celtics over the 76ers. I got Denver over Phoenix, and I got Memphis over Golden State.
You got Denver. You said
over
right?
Phoenix, yeah.
And then Memphis. Wow. All right. We got a lot of differences in this round because Pop has got. I got the Bucks. I agree with you there. I got Philly. I go rolling with my boy Josh Harris. I got Philly instead of Boston. I got Phoenix. I got Phoenix over Denver, and I'm rolling with the Warriors again. I got Golden State over Memphis.
There you go. There you go. And then for the finals, I got the Celtics against Memphis in the finals. And I'll just say it because we're here. I got the Celtics winning it all this year.
And you got Boston. All right. Well, we're going to have a very different brackets. Somebody's going to be crowing.
The other one's not going to be. Here.
But I got Bucks versus Phoenix. I got KD beating Golden State. That's going to be a hell of a conference finals there with, that whole association there. It'd be a lot of big news if that happens. But I got Phoenix slipping through there. But I've got the Bucks. This is my tingle this year, people. My tingle is with the Bucks. My tingle last time was with Golden State. My tingle is with the Bucks, and Giannis getting his second title. So I'm rolling with the Bucks this time.
I really like it. As I was sitting down, when I first opened the bracket, I said, you know what? I think I'm just going to pick Milwaukee to win it all. And then I thought about it a little bit, and I said, I'm going to go with Boston. I think it's their time. I just think they've been knocking right on that door for a little bit too long, and I think it's finally the time
Give them the track record. But I think the people should roll with Pop.
This will be we'll see. I think that Bucks Celtics conference final, if that happens, is going to be an all-time classic NBA series.
Once I start trash talking, that's a kiss of death for me. So. We'll see how it goes. We'll check in on this every week until we go. We had a lot of fun with it last year.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, see how it's going. Fun. But I mean, crazy week here in DC, as it always is, and we're hoping, there's going to be much less crazy weeks in the future for us with the way things
are. We're on hold, waiting for emergency power. We're waiting for that official announcement, and we'll be on.
And it is going to be
popping champagne bottles.
It is going to be a glorious, glorious podcast. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. It's going to be brilliant. I can't wait. Let's wrap this thing up, guys. I'm pretty. What do you think, Pop? You got anything else? Or are you ready to send this one home?
I just want to point out the new look I have back here that I didn't even realize to the people.
Nicely done.
That's good stuff. It was unintentional.
Nicely done. All right, well, let's wrap this thing
Nobody
up,
would have noticed if I didn't point it out. So
I certainly didn't. I still don't even know what you're talking about. But without further ado, let's wrap this thing up. I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thanks for another great week, guys. Have a good one.
Just love me, baby. Oh.